Welcome on. This is Unapologetically You with Amanda Sharp, and I have an awesome guest, Christy Stigge. I love saying her name. And we met 6 years ago, so we're going to get into it around the book I wrote. It's going to be a decade at this point soon. So let's talk about that kind of stuff and get into it. So welcome on.
Thank you.
It's been a long time since I've done an interview and recorded. And so we're going to just go with it and see what comes up in conversation, because you're a great conversationalist, and that's how we met, actually.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about you, and then we're going to go into a little bit of why we don't step into what we know we're called to do.
Sure. Yeah. We met 6 years ago on a plane. I was actually traveling for work. So that takes me to what I do. I'm in marketing. I'm an account director and always busy with that kind of stuff, but always looking to do something bigger and better and more important. So I think that's why you and I have connected on many different levels since our plane meeting. But yeah, also I sit on things far too long. So interested to have this conversation.
Yeah, and there's more coming down the pipeline, but just to give you some background, my travel is usually before and after really large events where I'm peopling for days at a time. And when I get on the plane, all I want to do is sleep and just put my earphones in. And obviously 6 years ago, we didn't have all the bells and whistles on the planes even, but I was unable to check out because of a very loud person in the row before us. And that's what got us laughing and talking.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty much like, what is happening? Because all I want to do is sleep right now.
Yeah.
So
and cringy too. Just the level of personal questions she was asking and telling about herself. It was uncomfortable.
yeah, well, that's probably me in real life. For being
No. We were both shocked. We were both, what is happening here?
Okay. So I had Christy come on because it's time to talk about why we don't do what we're called to do and why we sit on stuff for so long. So a little background, I sat on writing a book for 10 years, easily 10 plus years. And I finally was in accountability and personal development that was about setting goals. And I was the photographer for the seminar company. And the last seminar we did was setting huge goals and having accountability and then completing it. So I finally got my book done. And I would say probably within the first week, I was told by leadership I could not advertise it to the students. That wasn't our goal, is to sell stuff to the students. And it was immediately, and I had been in that company for almost 8 years. And so all my Facebook friends were students from the company. Mm-hmm. So it was almost an immediate, it was something so exciting to complete. And then, of course, I attracted immediate resistance to it. And why is that? Why do we let the resistance stop us from moving forward? So that was a little bit of about 3 years. And then I went into the ranch project, didn't focus on my book. So it's basically like I pressed self-publish on Amazon and didn't do a thing. And I know I'm called to write. And I know I'm called to encourage and speak into people's lives. So why do we do that? I want to hear maybe what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we already tell ourselves so many negative things a lot of times, right? We have that talk track in our head, and the slightest reinforcement of that in the real world, it's like, oh, I just validated all of my fears and concerns, and so I'll put it off again.
We attract it though.
Yeah, we do. And we hear what we want to hear and we see what we want to see.
Yeah.
It almost, in a weird way, pacifies us and makes us feel better about stalling and putting it off. At least I know I'm speaking for myself, and I think it takes a lot of guts to really see through that and say, okay, I'm going to have to think about the positives. Who hasn't shown resistance and go in that direction if I truly believe this is the right path for me? But again, it's so hard to do.
Yeah. It was crazy. I don't really talk about that old leadership regime, but I don't know. It's been enough time in between that I probably could and not be too offensive. Or I can be personally responsible about it. Definitely, I attracted all the comments right away. And it's like sometimes we go to, not sometimes, I see this all the time since I'm in seminar world. And the second you want to go for a huge goal, you immediately go call all the people that have been naysayers your whole life and get them on board with why you shouldn't move forward. So it's just crazy. And so I thought this would be a really powerful interview because it's me stepping out and saying, enough is enough. Like, I've hidden long enough. I've literally sat on my book for almost 10 years come October. And I know I was supposed to write the book. And obviously, the author really isn't me. It's just me using my fingers and letting God speak through me. That's kind of a stressful thing to say out loud because I don't think 100% of it's from God, obviously. It's just me pushing forward on something that I feel like He told me to do for a very long time. So I did it.
Yeah.
And now what?
And I really believe, Amanda, that if you ask God to speak through you, that's exactly what's going to happen. And I can tell when I'm reading your book that your ideas and your thoughts are definitely coming from your quiet time and your meditation on God and God's word. And so I believe you when you say that. And so I think it's so important that you do start getting the word out about the book because of that fact.
Yeah, and just a little bit background on us girls is we're pastors' kids. So
Yeah.
we have seen the abuse in the church and the power abuse in the church and claiming things that aren't necessarily true. And so you get a little bit hyper vigilant around what comes out of your mouth because it's so looked at from a microscope for so long. And then I got in the seminar world, which again, words and what you say out loud and what you speak forth really matters. It affects people, it affects forward movement, and that's like a whole different conversation. But so what what would you like to say about my book?
So many things. All right, it's
Why
here.
would someone want to read this? Why would someone want to read this?
Huh?
Why would someone want to read this book? And
Let's see. Couple reasons. Well, you do, as the title suggests, it's heavy, deep, and real funny. So it's got all of the things, right? It's got all the emotions, all the feels. But I think all of the examples you used are very relatable, which your vulnerability is, amazing, and it's going to speak to everyone who reads it. Gosh, I'm gonna just pick something.
that's terrifying.
Is it terrifying?
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, you know what? I also think the fun factor, like how and where can you add fun into your life? You talk about dance parties and letting go with your kids and just really like giving up the idea of who you should be and just being yourself. I think that we all need that reminder. So that's a common thread throughout the book.
Yeah, that's definitely a second or third book I'm pondering or sitting on is how to create fun on a daily basis.
Here's a good question. So truly, who is my identity in? I've been reading and listening to a lot of teachings on this subject. It's engulfed me and I'm grasping for a life preserver on this point. I crave understanding. He tells me all the time, peace and grace, my beloved, you are dear to me. I think it's just a lot of the where you talk about you go back to your quiet place, and I remember you saying you sit in Jesus's lap and you go for that comfort. No matter what's going on in our life, I think it's so important that we know to go within internally and to God. Um, and yeah, it's a powerful reminder that that's what we need to do to face the world.
Yeah. That's interesting because I am in the world of work and everything. I definitely have started just using Facebook as the real deal, like who I really am, knowing full well that this world could be offended by anything I say on a daily basis, and really given up the concern around that in the last 10 years, really. But just what is my truth? That doesn't mean that has to be your truth.
Yeah.
And I very clearly state that in my book.
You do.
And I very clearly state when someone says, hey, I want a copy, I'm like, are you down with me talking about God? Because I do. And if that's annoying or offensive to you, then I wouldn't get my book.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's so important too. You talk about God, but you talk about the need for us to be so outside of ourselves. Like it's not about us. We have to humble ourselves. We are nothing, right? And it's so true. If you can't look around and say God exists by looking at the trees or the grass or the everything and every uncanny situation where we say that was weird, no, it's probably God.
Yeah.
So if you can't acknowledge that, then I guess I just can't relate.
Yeah.
And your book makes sense from that point of view that God has to be real and we all need to recognize it. So.
I think that from a very young age, just being a pastor's kid twice, I love saying that out loud because it's just such a great sentence. I've really come from the place of I really love talking to people that hate God, that hate Christians, and have had horrible experiences with humans. And those are my people. Because between my humor and just kind of my everyday personality, a lot of people wouldn't know necessarily if I was a Christian, and I can feel the Karens of the church like just judging me right now. And that's what I do not like about the church. And that's when I got a really loud voice of, hey, guess what? There's a huge, huge group of people and humans that are not going to find God in the church.
Yeah, no, it's true. Some churches, I'm lucky enough right now to have found a church that, is not in any way, shape, or form negative in that way. And also, I have a lot of dear friends named Karen, so that
So
just have to say that out loud.
don't use that word again.
No, all good, all good. But
we had a bad few years with that one.
They're amazing. But I know what you're saying, and in every group though, there's going to be people like that. People are people, and we all have that human nature. And you talk a lot about it in your book, that human nature of self-centeredness, of looking out for me. And I don't care if you're at church or you're at school or work.
Yeah.
That human nature is going to follow you wherever, and we're all fighting it all the time.
Yep. My leader that I'm running with now in the seminar world, he was talking about how locate the 5 people that speak the loudest to you and are the biggest naysayers, because you're actually called to speak to everyone else except them. So if you can get past the 5 loudest people and actually shift those out into people that actually love and support you and have your back, then like why do you care about the 5 people that you've listened to for so long?
Yeah.
And
Good.
that's going back to the original statement of why do we sit on what we are called to do? There's really no reason for it. You know, when you're feeling, especially as a creative, if you are locked and loaded, you're just going to put your work out there. But I mean, people don't understand what that means. When I pressed publish in Facebook, or it said, do you want to announce this on Facebook? It was like that fast. As soon as I pressed I'm complete. And I'm like, what? What? And then people ordered books before I even got one. I
Ooh,
hadn't
wow.
even seen my finished product. And as a graphic artist, that's not great because you actually want to see everything, how it's laid out and if it sat well. And I had to give up the need, my looking good program, which is not real strong. But the little looking good that I have was
Kidding.
like,
Ever.
oh my gosh, all the analysts are gonna flip when they red pin this thing. It's gonna look like a murder scene, basically. And that's really not my person. That's not the person that should read my book because they're gonna just get so caught up in the grammar, the effect affect is not used correctly. Like I've had people send me messages on my posts, hey, here's the proper usage of that word. And I'm just going, holy cow, you just missed like the whole message and it was probably perfect for you. But good luck. I'm going to keep going and putting my stuff out there and not getting tripped up around the side banter of.
Yeah. I told you that. I usually am a grammar queen. In fact, my family, it's a running joke that I place such an importance on grammar. But I
Yeah.
was raised that way. My mom was a high school English teacher before she got
I
her.
have a lot of teachers in my family,
Yeah,
just so you're clear.
yeah. So I was raised that way. It's just second nature to me to correct grammar and especially in writing. But in writing or in reading your book, it did not bother me at all. It was conversational. And it made it better, even more, just flowed naturally. And so I found myself in writing to you then. Felt much more free to do the same. And so
Yeah.
I love it. It helps everyone else, I think, feel comfortable letting go of the grammar rules.
Well, one of the things I'm really good at is calling out the elephant in the room before anyone else can. So, I mean, I think I write that in the first two paragraphs. Like, hey, if you're going to miss my heart if you're getting all caught up in your red pin fantasies. So, well, cool. Is there anything else? I'm going to put my banner so you guys know how to get my book. Well, did I do it? I just did it. No.
Yeah, I would say, do yourself a favor and read this book. It'll make you stop and think. And there are a lot of great exercises, and a lot of great songs that are referenced. I think you and I have talked about how important music can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to read, your different, almost like short story formats of funny, deep, real, and then to have some reflection time and to do the exercises or to listen to the music. No, it really is some time well spent. So do yourself a favor.
Oh, I appreciate